All right, everybody, welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper pre-party show. You're going to have to excuse me if I am a little bit rusty. I think it's been about 4 weeks since I have live streamed. I've been on so many adventures. I can't wait to tell you all about them. Some of you, if you've been following me on Instagram, you know what some of the things I've been doing. I got to go to Georgia Bushcraft, which was a phenomenal experience. Anyone who's watching this in the Bushcraft community, I definitely encourage you to check that out for next year if you missed it. It was so much fun. I got to take classes with Dr. Mark Vorderbruggen, and he's like one of the nation's biggest experts on foraging. I got to take a mushroom inoculation class with Forager Chick, who's on Instagram. What else did I do? I took a snake bite class. Oh my gosh, it was just so much fun. So I will look forward to telling you all about that. And then I was in Arizona before that visiting my brother. I did not get a lot of desert footage because he was not feeling well. So we just kind of played it low key, but had a great visit out there. And if you're brand new to the channel, just to kind of go through things real quick, welcome to the Friday Night Prepper pre-party show. I go live usually on Friday nights. Tuesdays, I usually do some kind of skill-based video or review of a product. Love to have you join our channel by hitting that little subscribe button down there. And I see some of our regulars are popping in already. I see Van City Prepper, Cold War Prepper, and Dave Simmons. Welcome to the show. I am very, very excited to get tonight's guest on with you. I actually contacted her a couple months ago and asked about her availability. I'm a big, big fan of hers. Please welcome Sami Peluso. Did I pronounce the last name right?
You did. You got it. You nailed it.
How are you doing?
Doing very well. How exciting you got to go to Georgia. I actually lived in Georgia for 10 years.
Oh, it's so pretty. It was awesome. Yeah, and where that place is, it's Watkinsville, Georgia. It's like way out in the country, so like beautiful stars, and like as I got out there just passing beautiful countryside, it actually reminded me of when I used to live in Kentucky. I was driving, I'm like, oh, this reminds me so much when I lived out in Kentucky. I really miss this. So glad to be out there.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to go, because I know you love bushcraft, and we're going to talk about that tonight.
Yeah.
You definitely should check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I really need to get back to Georgia. Actually, my kids really want to get back to Georgia too. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Bacon, for joining us. Bacon, we got a couple mods in the chat. And also just a quick reminder, we keep it pretty loose here. Please, if you have any questions at any time during the chat, throw them up in caps so that I can catch them. Y'all know I'm blind as a bat. So if you throw them in caps, I have a better chance of catching them. I ask everybody, you can bash me all you want. Please be kind to my guests, and please be kind to each other in the chat. That's pretty much the only rule I have. If you break that rule, the mods are going to probably put you in timeout, or you might get kicked out. So we don't usually have too many problems here, but I like to throw that out just in case we get new people. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing on Instagram first.
Okay. So a little bit about me. It's not something that I advertise very often, but I am a single mom. And I do love that. Lived in 5 states, and I kind of get around just because I love getting around. But my Instagram, Sami Peluso, that's my personal account. It's focused on anything outdoors. I love campfire cooking. I do focus a lot on that because I think it's important to have those easy meals versus having all of these extravagant things that, you're trying to kind of overdo. I'd rather have those simple things, and people actually ask for those. Give me something simple. I love bushcraft. I love pretty much everything outdoors. And then I also focus on mindset as well, because it's incredibly important to have the right mindset.
How did you get into the whole outdoor thing? I mean, like, I love outdoor stuff, but I think you actually enjoy it even more than I do, which I didn't know if that was possible. So how did you get started on all that?
So both of my parents were very outdoorsy. And my father actually died at the age of 22. And so my mom was a very young single mom for many years, up until I was a teenager, but she always had me outside. I lived in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania. We were always camping. We were always doing things. And we never had the fancy gear. Like we never had the hottest item or anything like that. She always made do with what she had, or she rigged something up, or she just some of the things that people do online, such as Bushcraft Kelso and Army Mace. I call them Army Mace, but I know it's Mackie. They just crack me up because they remind me of my mom, because just random things that they do, it just reminds me of my mom. So she's always had me outdoors. And then once I was married and had kids of my own, my husband was deployed quite a bit because he was in the Navy, and he spent 10 years sea duty. So I spent that time with my boys, getting them outdoors, being involved in Boy Scouts, and getting the community involved in the outdoors and also with small businesses. So, and then, so I was a suburban housewife for several years and moved across the country to the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. Never thought I'd say that. And now I'm a single mom, and I don't really have a choice but to be prepared for certain things, because I don't have any, I don't live next to a little tiny town that has a gas station or whatever. I have to travel for that. So I have to make sure that I'm prepared, because I don't really have neighbors, really don't have anything out here. And I just, I kind of like it that way.
Yep. And by the way, thank you so much, Titan Preparedness. And I hope I pronounced this right. Jockey Blankard. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you both. So let's kind of define bushcraft real quick. So for those who are not familiar, best way I could describe bushcrafting is making do with the minimal amount of modern equipment in outdoor situations, right? So like you take maybe a knife and you're going to use that to get your fire started, right? You might have a ferro rod too, or something else. You might do hand drill. You can make cordage. You can make snares and traps for those people who are like hunting and trying to get game. That's the idea here. Building shelters, right? Building improvised tools, primitive skill sets. And so it's very much has some tie-in for wilderness survival, of course, and the preparedness community too. So there's a lot of crossover in the communities. And I think the common theme there was exactly like you said, making do with what you got. If that was a way that, if somebody said define bushcraft, I'd say for me, it's being in the woods and making do with what you got, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. My luxury item in my backpack is always a book.
Nice. I love that. Mine's my earpods because I love to listen to music.
Yeah.
That's my modern, when I'm camping, like, yeah, I do try to like tone down the electronics and stuff like that, but I really love to listen to my earpods.
Yeah.
Minimalist. Yeah, that's true as well. So Grizz McGilly, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you. And all right, so how often do you get out there and do some camping and hiking and things like that? How often do you get out?
So I try to camp once every season, at least minimum. I did not camp this fall. For a lot of you, it might be fall. One of the things that I wanted to say is that for me, winter isn't coming. It's already here. We already have snow on the ground, and we're expecting that for the next 6 months. I do camp in the snow. I
think everybody should at least try that.
Yes. Yes. I try to get out as much as possible. With work schedule during the week, it can be tough because I leave before the sun comes up, and there are most times I don't get home until the sun is already down. And so that is one thing Minnesotans struggle with, is getting enough vitamin D. So
now I had heard from a friend that I had back in graduate school that was said, in your area of the country, you have to keep your cars plugged in the middle of the winter if it's really cold.
Plugged in?
Yeah, they told me they had to keep their engine plugged in, or the engine could actually get so cold that it would be hard to start it in the morning.
I have not. Yeah, I have not had that issue. I have heard of people having that issue, but I have not, thankfully. But I do take really good care of my car because I really love my car.
Do you put snow chains on the tires in the wintertime?
No, I do not, but I do have the capability of 4-wheel drive, so I do have that.
I lived in Massachusetts for a long time, and I never had to do any of those things either. We had some harsh winters, but not like, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That area is like really harsh, and Buffalo even,
Yeah. So I will say that when the roads are bad, because they always come to me last, as far as roads go, I don't have to work, or I don't have to go to work. I can work from home. I do have that capability. So
Nice.
yeah.
So you also do, let's just kind of touch on this one a little bit in case people wanted to check it out. You do some consulting for businesses and things like that?
I do networking consulting. So I am a networker. I know a lot of people do networking on social media. I take it a step further and I do it in person as well. I'm known as one of those just master networkers that's constantly doing social networking. I literally get paid to do it, and I help other people grow their businesses by doing it as well.
Mm-hmm. And if people wanted some help with that, are you doing that only in your area, or is that something you do online as well?
No, I can do that online as well. I can do it through Zoom or phone calls if needed, but I prefer Zoom. It's easier because I can show you different things online, especially what might be in your area.
So what's the best way for them to reach out for that? Would that be through Instagram?
Either Instagram or my email address, which is they can just contact me through my website as well, samipeluso.com.
Okay. And I'm going to drop that link again right now for you all to see. I saw a couple other people pop in here. Penny Pinching Prepper, thank you so much. Good to see you. Samantha P, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you all. Prepping by Faith, always good to see you, my friend. And I know I missed one there. Grizz McGilly, thank you so much. Appreciate you. I think I got everybody. If I missed you, I apologize. All right. And then there's Sammy's website there. For some reason, I don't have good luck with doing Instagram links. So if one of the mods doesn't mind to drop, if you know how to do that, drop an Instagram link for Sammy as well. I would appreciate that. All right. So you are when you started out on that kind of stuff, if you had somebody contact you and they say, well, I really like what you're doing with, the outdoor activities and building campfires and outdoor cooking, what's a good skill for them to start with?
Being comfortable with being outdoors, not having any music, and just being alone in their thoughts. Right. You would be surprised. So many people are so uncomfortable with being alone in their thoughts. But it's very refreshing. So as far as skills go, the thing that I love, and I know Backpack Jack's on here, Jackie, and so she can testify to this as well. Bushcraft USA, I love them. It's a great forum to start with. They have a lot of information, and they actually have self-paced courses that you can take, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Awesome.
So I did use those, and I did get my the beginner course finished, and I'm working on the intermediate. So I'm still a newbie, but I think that's a great place to start. And if you don't know, ask somebody, because they would love to help you. People want to help.
Mm-hmm. And I would add to that, learn how to build fires. Like when you go out, if you have never been camping, like just spend your first weekend learning how to build different kinds of fires. And I know it sounds easy. It's a little bit more complicated than people think if they've never done it. There is a little bit of a science to it. Obviously it's heat, air, and fuel. But people smother their fires, or if it's a little bit damp, or they're using the wrong it's not dry enough, it's too green, it can be a little bit hard to get it going. So practice making fires and practice doing it with different methods. Like obviously a lighter is the easiest way to go. Everybody knows that, but it's also really fun to do it with a ferro rod. And if you've never done it, you should at least try to do like a hand drill. So that's like, the friction fires, things like that. It's very, very hard. Those kind of fires are very, very hard. If you get it though, you're going to feel it's like one of the best feelings in the world when you get that little coal and then you drop it into a bundle of, your tinder and you blow on it and all of a sudden you've got flame. You're going to feel like how the cavemen must have felt when they were doing it. It's just such a cool thing. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely fire is a skill. And one thing I will add to that, because I know this year wasn't so bad, but last year was, check your local area to make sure that it's safe to have a fire, because we don't want wildfires, people.
Right. Right. I guess I've been pretty lucky here. That has never, as far as I know, it's never been an issue in South Carolina. But in some of the other states I have, yeah, there's like fire restrictions and things like that. Carbon Q, is good to see you, my friend. That's Carbon Q's channel. So we've been if you're following along on the replay, I do recommend you turn on the chat replay as well, because we're dropping some good links in there for some great channels that you should definitely follow. So we talked about friction fires. What about, you mentioned the joy of cooking, right? In the outdoors, like it's a whole different experience, right?
Yes.
What are some of your favorites that you like to do?
So my favorite is pizza.
All right, tell us how you do your campfire pizza.
Okay, so Bannock. Everybody's made Bannock. If you haven't, you need to, and I can definitely post that again on my Instagram. Bannock you can do so much with. You can make desserts with it. You can make savory breads. My favorite was pizza. I cooked the Bannock in my little cast iron. I have this cast iron Dutch oven that is, so I mean, it's not much bigger than my hand, and I have tiny hands. So it's perfect for just me. But make the Bannock. Don't forget the garlic. You can have your sauce heating up in the, next to the fire. And I actually crisped the bacon when I put the cast iron skillet or the lid on the fire and heated it up and kind of fried the pepperoni a little bit just to make it nice and crisp.
Yeah.
And then I put
I'm getting hungry thinking about this.
I put all of those ingredients together and made a pizza. That was my favorite. Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with steak. You never go wrong with steak. I've made fajitas, enchiladas.
Yum.
Yeah. Stuffed burgers, breakfast. I mean, I've done all kinds of things. But the goal is for me to make meals that are easy. They're not overcomplicated, because and a few people have asked me to make a cookbook, and I'm working on it. I promise I'm working on it. But people are tired of seeing these overly complicated recipes, because when they're outdoors, they're not going to take all of these ingredients from their kitchen outdoors. They either prep it ahead of time or they take something simple. And that's what I love, simple things, because I don't do fancy.
100%. It's between the campfire smoke and the cast iron, you're going to get tons of flavor. You don't need to make it complicated. And every time I go out, I try to do something similar. I did a video, mods. I don't know if anybody wants to try to find this and we can link it. I did a video for Sarge's campfire stew, it was so stupid easy, but it tastes so good. And the atmosphere is part of that too. Like, there was something about cooking over the campfire with your cast iron, and then sitting there and watching your fire as you're eating, as the sun's going down. It's just like, it really fills my soul. And I know for you, it does too.
Yeah, it sure does. Absolutely.
It helps me recharge.
Yes.
And before we went live, you had mentioned something about, I work in mental health as well, right? That my primary job is I'm a therapist. It sounded like you do something about mindfulness, or can you talk a little bit about that?
So I am not a coach of any type. I am not a therapist, but I really do believe that mindset is so incredibly important. And it's something that I have focused on. Once I moved to Minnesota, like I changed quite a bit. I changed my lifestyle quite a bit, and having the right mindset was a huge part of that. Actually, that was the main part of it. So, just having a great mindset and always looking to grow is something that's really important, but also take note that growth is not easy. If it is, everybody would be doing it.
Nothing easy, and nothing worth having in life is easy, really.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cold War Prepper, for linking that. Appreciate it. Silver Scorpions, good to see you. Talking a little bit about mindset, right? So do you watch the show alone, or have you seen the show alone?
I have actually never seen it, and people ask me that almost every day.
Yeah. So it's a really, out of all the like survival shows, it's the one that's probably the most realistic. In fact, I got to at Georgia Bushcraft, one of the contestants from season 2 was there doing one of the workshops. I got to watch her for a few minutes. I didn't get to take that class. Carly Fairchild. And what they do is it's like 8 contestants. They drop them in the wilderness. You get to pick 10 items that you bring with you, and basically you win by outlasting all the other contestants, and there's no contact. That's why it's called alone. There's nobody within miles of you. And the number one thing that takes out the contestants, and these are all survival experts, these are people who are very, very well trained. The number one thing that takes people out is they start to get really, really depressed being alone. More so than the hunting, more so than the cold and the inclement weather and everything else, because they have to build their own shelters, they have to hunt their own food. It's the lack of human contact that eventually wears them down most of the time. Really interesting. So a lot of people have this like lone wolf mentality in the survival community. It really doesn't work.
Yeah.
You could last a while, but eventually it would start, like shows like that, movies like what's the one with Will Smith, I Am Legend, and stuff like that. It's it's not very realistic because people deteriorate pretty quickly without that human contact. Digital, good to see you. Uncle, I saw you pop in there earlier. Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody. See, I don't think I missed anybody there, but thank you everybody for popping in. I saw somebody post before. If you haven't already done so, please consider giving us a like. We always appreciate that. And so let's talk a little bit now about, you and I were talking about this before we went live, safety when you're camping and hiking alone, because you and I both like that. Like if I go camping, my Mrs. Sarge is always welcome to come with me. She doesn't really like it as much as I do. So she says, go play in the woods, have fun. I'll be here when you get back, And actually I appreciate that, because it's like it's my mindfulness time. It's my time to kind of heal some of my own stuff, to recharge, to connect with nature, to connect with my higher power. So I really do like that. But it's something like when you're by yourself, and especially if you're going into some areas where it's a little bit more remote or the cell phone signals may not be there, safety is definitely something that we need to take into account. So what kind of thoughts or what kind of recommendations do you have for people with if they were, just let's say just solo day hiking?
Yeah. So like I had mentioned, that I always carry a knife on me. It doesn't matter if I'm just walking into the office, I'm carrying a knife on me, but I always have a knife on me, and I always carry bear spray. I know some people might think that's a little excessive, but I like to have it just in case. Maybe it's kind of a security blanket for me, but I do carry those two things. And Hershey, when I do my day hiking, at least, she's usually with me, and I love her with all of my heart. She's very protective and she is very assertive. So typically when I'm with her, I stay away from people in general. She's very loud.
Samantha P said most of the time people are a drag, not a help. That's true.
Yeah.
And some, I've had people ask me, hey, I see some of your videos about going out and camping and stuff. Can I go with you? And I'm kind of like in my head like, oh, I like you. You're my friend, but that's my me time,
Yeah.
So I would add only to that, we definitely, we have to let people know where we're going. That's the biggest mistake that I think a lot of solo hikers don't do. Like, especially, and we can get overconfident with our skills. I know I have, and that the guy, I can't remember his name, that got trapped out in the desert, like trapped between two rocks. Like he was a very experienced hiker, and this happens a lot where like they'll go out and just think, well, I know what I'm doing. I've got some pretty good skill set, and something happens, they fall, or they get bit by a snake, or they get lost. Like even experienced hikers can get lost. I've gotten turned around a few times. One time I got really far off track and ended up miles off of where I thought I was. So it can happen. Mm-hmm. You got to let somebody know where you're going, or at least where your starting point is, so they know where to start the search.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I always tell people, like, if it's just a simple day hike, I will tell my kids where I'm going. If I'm actually going camping, then I obviously tell my kids, and I will tell my ex and even my boss, because he just wants to know that I'm okay. They've even gone as far as putting a tracker in my vehicle just to make sure that, that I'm safe.
And do you carry like first aid kit or anything like what kind of things are typically in your day hike pack?
Always carry a first aid kit, carry my knife. I carry either water or something to have water. I'm trying to think off the cuff here what's in my blue bag. Always have my knife, always have my bear spray, and fire kit.
Yeah.
Things of that. Pretty standard stuff. But I would say that my luxury item is a book, because I like to read. And when I am outdoors, that's typically the only time that I will read fictional books.
Cool. Fish, good to see you. Miss T, good to see you. Appreciate you both. Thought I saw somebody else popping in there. If I missed you, I apologize. But thank you, everybody, for popping in. Our guest tonight is Sami Peluso, who is a fellow outdoor enthusiast, bushcrafter, hiker, camper, and she also does consulting for businesses to help them market. Really all-around fantastic person. So in my kit, I typically have all of what you said, and I add a little bit of cordage. You can bushcraft cordage out, but it's intensive. Like it's going to take hours to get 15 feet of rope. I just carry it with me. It's just easier. Like if I got trapped out there, I can build a shelter as long as I got some cordage and be okay for the night. There's an app I've told people on my stream about this before, called Life 360.
Yep.
And do you use that one?
I do not, but I've heard about it, and my coworker uses it religiously.
So I started using it last year. I work with in therapy. A lot of my patients are first responders, and a police officer. Who I talked about, that I was like, I'm going hiking this weekend, blah 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 blah. And they were like, "Do you tell people where you're going?" I'm like, "Usually, yeah." And they're like, "Do you use Life 360?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "You need to at least have your wife linked with you on Life 360." And what it does, and she was right. And I did do this. Now, just to let people know, it is, if you're worried about privacy, it does show anybody who's in your circle where you are, right? So I have nothing to hide, so I don't have a problem with my wife seeing where I am. Like, I'm a pretty boring person. If I'm not at work or in my garden, I'm on one of the hiking trails. So, but I do want her to know it pings your like last locations. So, it's pretty good. And like we were saying before, you can lose your signal if you're really far out there, but it'll ping the last chance that it had. So at least it gives them a starting point. So it's a pretty cool app. And you can just say, like, if you're worried about your privacy, like the only time that Mrs. Sarge and I would disable it for ourselves is like if I'm going to pick out a Christmas gift or a birthday gift and I don't want her to know where I'm going, I'll say, "Hey, I'm shutting off Life 360 for a little bit. I'm taking care of something for you, Other than that, it's pretty much it's on. And I used it for Georgia Bushcraft, so she knew where I was. And it's just kind of a nice thing for people to be aware of if you go out by yourself.
Yeah. I'm not worried about privacy either. I'm a boring person.
I wish I could tell you that there was some interesting stuff that I wanted to hide from people.
Yeah.
Really not. What else? I wanted to ask you about. You used to do this, and I think this is when I started following you on Instagram. I don't know if you're going to pick it back up, but you had a thing that you were doing called Just the Tip Tuesday.
Yeah. So I have, seriously considered just keeping that on my personal account, but I did create a different account for that as well.
Yeah.
But yes, Just the Tip Tuesday, I would have little tidbits of information on things that you can do specifically for Instagram, because I am an Instagram nerd. Right. A lot of people see social media as a necessary evil, but it doesn't have to be evil. You can actually have, a pretty big impact on the world with your voice. And I just find it really interesting that there are certain tips and tricks that you can use to get your name out there better and to better utilize the app.
So do you want to throw a few out there? Because most of the people in chat right now are also have their own channels and things like that.
Yes. So the thing that differs for me, as compared to some of the other coaches, if you will, is that a lot of people focus on that number of followers. Like that is the golden ticket. And I don't think that's true. Actually, I know it's not true. Smaller accounts are actually doing better. They get better reach, but when you're not focused on the number of followers, but your actual followers, that makes a huge difference because those relationships are key. Let's say you're building a business and you have 1 million followers or you have 1,000 followers. Those 1,000 followers are going to pay more attention to you than the 1 million. You know, it's about the relationships, not about the numbers.
Yes, I 100% agree. Authenticity, right? Like connecting with the viewers. I do a lot of product reviews, and I got a really nice compliment from one of the other channels this week. It was I did the bearskin tactical hoodie review, and I think it was Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival said it was nice to see a review from a source that I trust, and like that's like the best compliment you can pay to me, because I don't review products that I don't think my audience is going to like or that I'm not going to use. Right. Yeah. So I turn down, at this point, I'm getting quite a bit. Like I usually get a few a day, a few offers. I'm turning down way more than I'm accepting because I'm like, nope, doesn't fit my brand. Nope, my audience wouldn't like this. Nope, that's cheap. I'm not going to sell cheap. And then sometimes if I'm not sure, I'll go and I'll research the product from other people. What are they saying? And then I'll say, okay, well, here's what I'll do for you. I don't know enough about your brand. I'm willing to check it out. If I don't like it, I'm gonna send it back to you. I'm not gonna go on here and try to sell something to my audience that I wouldn't use. You know.
Yeah, I like that.
So do you find that when you're working with companies and brands and they're asking a little bit about like who do I connect with? Are they looking for like what kind of things are they looking for when they're trying to find people to represent for them?
So 2 examples that I'll give, well, 1 example, but 2 people. There are a lot of real estate agents because the housing market was just absolutely ridiculous through the pandemic, right? So I told them to niche down. I have one realtor who is doing a fantastic job. I asked her, who is it? Who are you passionate about helping? Who is that you want to focus on? And she told me, I want to focus on people going through a divorce. No other realtors want that, number 1, because it's a mess. Number 2, she's been through it, so she knows. So that popped into my head. When you ask a specific thing that might be kind of weird, that sticks in people's heads. So with that, I said, well, I can connect you to divorce attorneys, blah, 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 blah. And then a month later, I ran into a mortgage guy and I said, well, who do you want to be connected to? He said, I really want to help people that are working or going through a divorce. I'm like, oh, how about that? He actually wrote a book on it. So those things, those specific things, when you ask for those are that's what sticks in people's heads. And then the other example for realtor specifically is I have a gentleman. Again, 22,000 realtors in Minnesota. He's number 29. Wow. So he's one of the top agents.
Yeah.
His thing is he loves focusing on people who want to move into Minnesota. So he works great with recruiters and people overseas that want to move into Minnesota. And he creates packages and sends them to them and shows them, hey, this is why you want to move in. Mm-hmm. So it's just being very specific is key. You can't niche down too much, and my account is not niche down too much, or I mean far enough, because it's my personal account and I just haven't niched it down. But if I were to focus mainly on just food, just campfire cooking,
right,
my follower count would go way up, which
really?
Would be fine, but it's my personal account. It's just you get all of me.
Yeah, and I kind of have a similar mindset about what you're saying about your personal account. Like I do gardening here, I do foraging videos, I do winter prepping. I do, product reviews. I could niche down and just do foraging. And I think you're right. It probably would grow a little bit faster. But I like talking about all these other things. And I don't have to, at this point, I don't have to have 100,000 followers. Would I like to get there someday? Yeah. But it's not a huge priority right now. I like getting to know my audience as I grow. And if I start doing that, like niching down too much, I worry that I might get bored with it. Like, I do like talking about foraging. I don't know that I want to talk about foraging every video.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll leave that to the foraging chick.
The foraging chick is awesome.
I love her. She's adorable.
She is fantastic, and she was a good teacher. Because I have a mushroom log that's not been fruiting for me, and so I got to do another one with her and take that home. And so I asked her a question like, "Why is it not fruiting?" And she's like, "Sometimes it just takes a full year." She's like, "Don't give up on it." She was really good.
That's crazy.
Yeah. If you get a chance to take a class with her, she's cool.
I think I'm going to, because I have a fear of mushrooms. Like, that's a real thing. People, laugh about it, but if I'm out in the woods and something is crawling on me, I will look over and I'll be fine. But if I accidentally touch a mushroom, I'm squealing. So
Is it the texture?
It is the texture, but I think it's also not having the knowledge. So I feel like if I had some knowledge, I would feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cold War prepper. I agree with that. I just want to jump back here for a minute. Samantha P asked me a question. So that tactical hoodie, Bacon linked the review there. So this is the second version of it. The first version was not as well received. They did some major changes to it. So it's the product. If you saw some videos that was like, oh, I don't know about this, that was probably the first version. So any review that you saw that's more than I think like 6 months old, that product's not even available anymore. So just disregard that. I like it a lot. I've been wearing mine. It's been a little chilly here this week. I've been wearing mine. It's fleece, and it feels like really nice fleece. It's very, very soft, not waterproof. Yeah, it's fine for probably like it's a light rain and you're going to your car. It's not waterproof. It is pretty windproof though. Like you can cinch it up pretty good on the waist, neck, and arms. And I'm pretty happy with it. For me, it's like a mid layer. For most of the winter here, I'm probably good with that as my outer layer. But for where Sammy is, it's probably only like mid layer. You'd need something else on top of that.
Yeah.
Mushrooms are easiest to grow and very nutritious. Yeah, Digital he did I think it was a grow box, and he had good success with his. So I'm a little bit jealous, Digital, because my mushroom log, I look at it every day, and it's like, that meme where like they're poking something with a stick and it says do something. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel with my log. All right. So you had mentioned how are we doing for time? We got a few more minutes. So you all, we're going to be getting near the end. If you have questions, throw them in caps and we'll try to catch them all. When one of your Just the Tip Tuesdays, you talked about shadow banning, right?
Yeah.
And I think most small creators have that feeling like, am I shadow banned and why? Right. Yeah. And your answer was, you're probably not shadow banned. Right.
Yes. So people saying that they're shadow banned, it's not as common as you would think.
It has to be pretty extreme, right? Like your content has to be pretty extreme.
Yes. So it's if you ever are shadow banned or feel like you are, you just need to take a break from social media and come back. Like go enjoy the freaking forest, y'all. But no, it's really hard to tell people. It's not Instagram, it's what you're doing. And a lot of people think that they can beat the algorithm. The algorithm like touches on 50,000 things. Right. So to imagine that it's just one thing is just ridiculous. So it's just being authentic, connecting with other people, because that's why you're there. I keep telling people it's time to make social media social again. So focus on those little things and loving on other people's stuff. It's not just about you, but you also need to provide quality content. It's not just a static image or a selfie, if you will. I don't do this, and I'm fine with people that do, but just not a snapshot of your cleavage or whatever. You need something more than that. You need to add value.
Right.
That's what you were put on the earth to do anyway. So
do you follow the Black Forager?
I do.
Yeah. So the difference between Black Forager's videos and mine, because she has a lot more followers than ours, is she has this like amazing energy that she puts into her content, and like every single reel she puts out is fun.
Yeah.
And I click on every single one because I know not only am I going to learn something, she's going to make me laugh.
Yeah.
And I wish I could replicate like that kind of energy. She's fantastic. So making it fun is so important. Like I'll upload a video and I may a reel on Instagram, and I may get 4,000 views, and I'm like, wow, I'm doing really good. I think I got this.
Yeah.
And the next day you upload one, you're like 90 views.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what? It happens, and it's totally fine. You don't have to beat yourself up over it. The other person, and I wanted to give her a shout out too. I don't even know if she's on here or not, but I know you've talked to her in the past, is Morgan, Rogue Preparedness. I absolutely love her content. And I tell her that, like, because it's educational and I'm always learning something, or she's, having fun, or she's showing her kids, which I freaking love kids. And mine are, 6 feet tall now and have mouths. So, but, yeah, I love her content as well. So it's about making it fun and educational and relatable as well. So,
Yep, I agree with that. She was just on, she was actually my last guest. Yeah, she is fantastic. Actually, she's one of the reasons why I started a prepping channel. Was I really liked what she was doing, and I had contacted her like for some thoughts and advice on like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you have any thoughts on it? And she was just really super supportive about it. And she was like, do whatever you want to do. Do make it fun. I asked her. She was on one of my very first videos. I asked her if she would do that, and I think I only had like 100 subscribers or whatever. So she had like 15,000 at that time. So for me, like that was like, oh my gosh, like how cool is this person that they're willing to spend time with me,
Yeah. And that is one other tip that I give with the smaller accounts. Another example I give for another company that I work for, I handle their social media, and it's not the number, again, I'll say it a million times, it's not the number of followers that you have, it's the connections that you're making. So that account had under 200 followers, and it had brought in over $20,000 worth of revenue to them. So it's really, really not about that number. And once people get that out of their head, if they ever will, then they'll start really seeing the difference that they're making in the world.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I hope everybody, because I know most of the people in chat, we all have channels and stuff. So I hope that was helpful to anybody. And again, we're about to finish up. So if you have any questions for Sami about bushcrafting or camping or her consulting business, or social media, and like how to get, how to make that a fun experience that also helps you to get the most out of it, helps your audience, and helps, helps the community that you work in. One final thought about that piece of it is I participate in some groups on Facebook that are just like other small brand content creators basically trying to help each other out. You can post things like thumbnails and things like that and say, hey, is this any good? And you have to be willing to accept some feedback, because it can be like really brutally honest, be like, there's no way I'd click on that. That's garbage, like,
yeah.
All right, I need to take that feedback, but the one thing that I consistently give as feedback on there is people will say, I've been doing YouTube for 2 years. I've only got 200 subscribers. What am I doing wrong? And I always ask them, how much are you networking? And they'll say, what's that? And I'll say, how much are you interacting within your niche? How much are you talking to other channels? How much are you talking to other Instagrammers in your niche, whatever? And they'll be like, well, why would I help out somebody that's my competition? And that is the exact wrong way to think about it.
Yes.
In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's I think it's like habit 6 is synergize, do not compete, synergize, build a community. It's so important to most of my followers were not from the algorithm. Most of my followers have come from other people in the community who have said, hey, check out Prepping with Sarge. He's got some pretty cool stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. And that is actually, that's literally what I do for a living. That is what I get paid to do. And it brings in business to other businesses. So, yes, I am all about networking. Before you and I had turned on the live, I had mentioned that I do 3 to 5 in-person networking events every week. So I'm a hardcore networker, and I believe that if you want to grow, you need to network. You need to network like your business depends on it, because it does. And that was actually one of the final wrap-up things that I was going to say, because you had asked, what's an easy fix for prepping, or maybe an issue that people could be having. And my answer to that is networking, because you can get so much advice from people. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know who you don't know until you talk to somebody. And people want to help other people. Like, it's in our nature. So, feel free. Anybody on here can reach out to me through my Instagram or my website, and I would love to talk to you, because that's just what I do. But people love helping people, and we don't know anything really. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's so much more enjoyable to go through life building community, building networks, building friendships. My life is the best part of being a content creator has been the friendships that I've made along the way. The people who go about like, well, I'm not going to help anybody else, why would I help my competition? Or even worse than that, I see people bashing down the competition. Well, you're going to attract a very negative audience.
Yeah.
You're going to get what you put out to it. So if you're always doing that, and I get it. I've called out a couple people for doing some unethical stuff. I don't like to do that, but if it's really unethical, like they're giving really dangerous advice or something, I will sometimes call it out. But if you do that all the time, all you're going to get is people who want more of the same, who want that negativity, and it's not going to be good.
No, it's not.
I saw, let's see, Poodles Daddles. I'm sorry, I'm blind as a bat, y'all. Poodles Daddles. What is a good brand of medium-sized tent? Do you want to tackle this one first, Sammy, and then I'll give you my thoughts?
Sure. So by medium-sized, I'm thinking maybe 4-person. I have used it for a 4-person tent, because that's typically car camping. I've gone as far as getting Coleman, but my tent that I use is Eureka, and I do like it. I've used it for the past couple of years and have done really well with it.
I think a lot of the more economical tents can be feasible. You might need to do a little bit of extra waterproofing to it. That's a big thing to be, tested out before you get out there. If you saw my nature hike tent video, basically I just take the garden hose. I had my Mrs. Sarge spray the garden hose while I was inside the tent.
Yeah.
And so test it out. All tents will eventually leak under the right conditions. It doesn't matter how good it is. Eventually, if you get a deluge of a rainstorm, eventually you will get water inside the tent.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of like, how much can it hold off? I am currently using the Nature Hike P4 for my 4-man tent, and the Teton Ultra for when it's just me. And that's just like a bivy tent. It's very, very small. So for medium size, I'm using the Nature Hike P4. I like it. If you watch my review on that, there's a few things I didn't like about it. The zipper is very, very weird, and it doesn't have an overhang thing for like your fan or your light. Those are 2 things I wish it did have, but it's doing the job. I've stayed dry. It was raining at Georgia Bushcraft. I stayed dry. So, I mean, there's a lot of different options out there. I'm not saying, in this case, I can't say like I strongly endorse any one or the other. Uncle Al, I saw you pop in there. Thank you so much. Want to make sure we haven't missed any other questions. Looks like Prepping by Faith just went live. If anybody wants to go there after this, we're wrapping up in a second. Anyone like coffee? Yes. I love coffee.
Yes, and it's always better when you're outdoors.
Campfire coffee is awesome. Yes. In fact, campfire breakfast is awesome.
Yes.
is a wall tent the best? So I have one of those ones. It's like a tub tent with the mesh lining, and then the rain fly goes off of it. But both of my tents actually function like that. If you're a little bit colder climate, I think you probably would want to go to a wall tent. What do you think, Sammy?
Probably. I also have a very similar setup to you, though, and my other luxury item is a wool blanket, so I stay nice and toasty.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, and I use if it's a summer night, I have basically a camping blanket, and that works really good for me. If it's a little bit colder, I do have a 0-degree bag, so I usually will bring that if it's going to be cool. I don't always have it like completely like mummified, like I'll leave it open so I can vent or whatever, and that's been pretty good for me. If you have money to burn, which is tough right now. A yurt is the best long-term tent that I can think of for all conditions because they're reinforced. I've never had one, but I've seen them and they are cool.
Yeah.
And the dome tents, I think my brother, who does a lot of hiking and he hiked up Kilimanjaro, he would agree with you on that. He likes the dome tents. So I think that answered that. Let's go through plugs again, and I'm going to drop your link in comments. Sorry. And also Sammy is on Instagram, which is how I'm usually following her, but this is her website. And please check that out. Again, if you're watching this on replay, make sure you are turning on the chat because you were missing some great chat. Appreciate everybody in the chat tonight. Appreciate the mods. You all did a great job. I'm going to go ahead and plug Bacon here because Bacon's been here with me since the beginning. He was my first mod that would come and help me out, and I always appreciate him. So thank you so much, Bacon. And Sammy, what else do we want to talk about? What do you got coming up? Anything they should know?
Well, I did just launch my business. Pretty excited about that. All things social. And I am not sure. So the things you did ask me what it is that I will be focusing on. And that over the next 6 months, because that's winter for me for the next 6 months, will be on both my physical and mental growth.
Good.
So
yep. And same here. You know, we're with the inflation and everything else, it's definitely we're not in trouble, but we're feeling it for sure. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to make some moves to improve our position as well. So
yeah. I'm seeing it in the trades because I work with a lot of tradesmen. So I see it in the trades right now. And it's everywhere. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you. I'm a huge fan of yours. I really appreciate you coming on. And I hope everybody goes and checks out your website. I hope everybody checks you out on Instagram. You have been a fantastic guest. I really appreciate your energy. You brought the same energy here that you bring to all of your Instagram reels. So anytime you want to come back on, you just let me know. I'm always happy to have you back on.
Perfect.
I'm going to go ahead and close us out. If you want to hang on with me for just 1 second. Okay.
Absolutely.
You've got a friend in me, Sarge. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Love my audience. Thank you so much. Everybody, as you're leaving here, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out Prepping by Faith. I think somebody said that she's live. Also a good friend of our channel and fantastic YouTube content creator. So I'm going to try to head over there in a few minutes as well. As usual, I try to end with something positive for you all. So holiday season is here. Please, I know for most of us, we enjoy holidays. It's joyous. Just remember, as somebody who works in the mental health field, I will tell you that a lot of people struggle during Christmas and Hanukkah. And if they've lost somebody, there tends to be that psychological association, or maybe they're just really, really struggling and they can't make a good Christmas for their kids, right? So just try to keep those people in your thoughts and in your prayers if you pray. If you have an opportunity to help somebody, please do so. Sammy and I would both tell you, if you get a chance to get outside and enjoy nature, definitely do that for yourself. All right. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge and Sami Peluso.